we go. When I was at Yale Divinity School, one of the most memorable educations that I received did not happen in the classroom. It didn't happen through academic lectures nor reading obnoxiously dense theological books. Some of the most memorable education that I received took place in the school cafeteria. Yes, you heard me, the school cafeteria. In this small, humble space, I'd have conversations with my fellow classmates, and they were very eye-opening to me. I remember on this one particular morning, I was eating in the cafeteria, and I was enjoying the most delicious bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich. And I was sitting with two of my classmates. And as you may have guessed it, we seminarians were having a theological conversation. But it was not some complex academic discussion. No, it was a very simple conversation about the nature of God, about how we saw God. The topic of our discussion was actually this week's gospel passage. It's a very familiar passage, especially the part where Jesus proclaims that he is the way, the truth, and the life. My classmates told me how they saw that passage. They believed that just as there's multiple paths to get from one place to another, there must be multiple ways to get to God. For an illustration, we brainstormed all the ways a person could get from the Divinity School to Yale's old campus. We thought about the different streets that you could take to get there. You could take Prospect Street, or you could take Whitney Avenue, or you could take Orange Street. We also thought about all the ways, the methods to get there. You could walk. You could take the school shuttle. It may take a while, but you'll get there. You may bike, or you can drive your car. Hopefully you'll find some parking spots down there. We determined that there's definitely not just one way to get to the old campus. Now, be it that I'm new to this area, many of you have given me directions on how to get from one place to another. Sometimes I've had to call you to figure out where places are. I've learned that there's many ways to get to the city of Rochester. I've had a conversation with Lance about this. You could take Road 15, or you could take the Highway 390. Or, the way I've been doing it, I travel down a random road until I get frustrated, and then I turn on my GPS, and then I find my way. Either way, no matter what path I take, I'm going to get there eventually. It's pretty easy for us to brainstorm all the paths and ways to get to the city. But when it comes to God, the holy, for some of us it's difficult to believe that there's many paths to get to God. Especially when we hear Bible verses where Jesus declares that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. I think Bible verses like this are very easily misinterpreted. We read them through our own narrow lens. We read them 2 millennia after they were first spoken. And we read them being a part of Christianity, which is a religion established in following the ways of Jesus. Some pastors that I know in the churches that I have sat in those same pews, I've heard them use this Bible verse as a way of degrading other world religions and elevating Christianity above them all. I don't think that's right. The more I study other world religions, the more uncomfortable I feel interpreting the Bible through such narrow lenses. And to top it off, what makes studying the Bible so hard for not only pastors, but those in the academic world, is that we're trying to interpret the words of someone who is not here to explain the original meaning, to tell us what he actually meant. There are many passages in the Bible, if we were to be honest, and if I was to be honest, that are confusing. Sometimes they leave us scratching our head and wondering what to do with them. How do we interpret and understand them? But looking at the life and values of Jesus, I don't think he was trying to promote hatred or alienation. I don't think he was trying to make a faith in a higher power some exclusive club. When I think of the way of Jesus, I think of someone who spent his life teaching others to love their neighbor, no matter who that neighbor may be. Samaritan, Jew, Gentile, it didn't matter. When I think of the way of Jesus, I think of someone who spent his life going against the religiosity of his day. He challenged the religious leaders to care more for people than their piety, even if that means healing a man born blind on the Sabbath. When I think of the way of Jesus, I think of someone who encouraged community and generosity. From feeding the multitude to their Passover meal, the disciples were always taking food and passing it to others. There was not an attitude of keeping and hoarding it for yourself. When I think of the way of Jesus, I think of someone who cared for the least and the last, who healed countless people, the blind, the deaf, the mute, and the paralyzed. He had compassion on the lepers, and he healed them back to wholeness. He even healed the man whose mind was possessed with many demons. When I think of the way of Jesus, I think of someone who does not shame people for their sin, but liberates them to live a better life, like the woman who was caught in the act of adultery. Maybe, just maybe, the way of Jesus has less to do with theology and a set of doctrines, maybe more to do with a way of life, a way that we should treat the world. One of the most famous teachings of Jesus was the Golden Rule. This is a simple phrase that we know by heart, and for any of us in elementary school, I remember the teacher specifically telling us about the Golden Rule, which is do unto others as they would do unto you. Or an updated version, treat others how you would want to be treated. We have heard this all of our lives. But the Golden Rule is not just in Christianity. It's actually a teaching that transcends every religion and culture. When we read through the different versions of the Golden Rule, we'd find something. We'd find that we're not as different as what we may think we are from our sisters and brothers of other faiths. We are all teaching the same lesson, but we're using different words and phrases. Perhaps in the same way, we are all on the same journey trying to reach God, the holy, the great mystery beyond our understanding. We may travel down different roads and take different paths, but we are all still seeking the same thing. As we go through our journey together, I pray that we would help and encourage each other instead of cause harm. I hope that we would be a faith community that would not belittle others for their faith, but we would seek to understand them. Maybe even walk and talk with them for a while on their journey. And maybe we'll realize the beauty of their own spiritual path. Think about what a better world this world would be, how much more peaceful it would be if we'd follow the way of loving our neighbor and treating others as we would want to be treated. Amen.